All right, let's talk about it. The big four sewing patterns. Were they really sold to a liquidator for $1? Welcome to Sewing Report Live. I'm Jen. I cover news and I do commentary for what is going on in the world of sewing and crafts. Yes, I've seen all the comments. Y'all want me to cover this. I've spent the last 48 hours or so doing some pretty intense research with a lot to go over about what exactly is happening with Simplicity Creative Group that owns a number of different popular sewing pattern brands. Okay, so just a quick disclaimer before we really get into things. If you're kind of new here, these videos are researched. I do a lot of reading beforehand and try to find out as much about the topic as I can. I'm not a perfect speaker and these videos are not pre-scripted. This is just what I think. Also, these are talking head videos. So if someone speaking bothers you, this channel may not be for you. If you're gonna leave a comment, you have to follow my community guidelines that I will be putting in a pinned comment down below. Links to most of the things I'm referencing on this topic will be also in the description box. I try to do a lot of first-hand reporting and trying to find original sources as much as I can. Okay, so there's a lot of nuance with this topic. Just kind of on a black and white level, I've seen a lot of comments around the internet like, oh, so the big four sewing pattern companies have been sold to a liquidation company. This is really bad. This is terrible. There's a lot of other aspects to this that I really want to get more into. Grab a snack, get comfortable. This is gonna be a really long ass video. I'm gonna start off with just a news article so you can sort of get the gist on what's happening, but there's a lot more. Towards the end, I will give more of my opinion. I'm not going to do a lot of speculating on this one just because I think it's really too early to make any sort of guesses. Most of the sewing pattern brands that you know are under the same ownership. Now, that was not always the case. This has sort of happened over a longer period of time. So Simplicity Creative Group controls pretty much most of the mainstream brands, I would say. So if you go to simplicity.com, Simplicity, McCall's, Butterick, Vogue, Nomi, New Look, and Burda Style. A lot of these patterns have historically been carried in big box stores. Now that Joann's has closed all of the stores, a lot of folks are wondering like what kind of impact will this have on a lot of the vendors, such as these pattern brands. Now, all of these brands are under Simplicity Creative Group, and the ownership of a Simplicity Creative Group is Design Group Americas. All of those pattern brands are a very, very small part of a very large international conglomerate. So Design Group Americas is like basically the American branch, but they're part of a much larger company called IG Design Group, which is based out of the UK, England. So again, this is a lot to digest. These headlines have been hitting the media over the past couple weeks, and I know there's been a lot of panic over this. It says IG Design Group sells DG Americas amid challenging market. This is from investing.com. So a lot of investment type outlets have been picking this up because IG Design Group is a publicly traded company. I don't know if you can buy the shares of stock here, but I was able to find the stock. All right, so this was published on May 30th, out of London. And this seemed to be a pretty big deal in the UK. IG Design Group PLC, a global leader in design and manufacturing for celebration and creative products. Yeah, and they own so many different brands. Lots of different stuff from crafting, the sewing pattern stuff, toys, a lot of like gift wrap, stationery type items. Announced today that it has sold Design Group America's DGA division to HUK 168 Limited, a Hilco Capital Group entity. The deal includes a nominal upfront cash payment of $1 and a contingent future revenue share. All right, DGA, which represents the group's operations in the US and includes supporting functions in India, Hong Kong, China, the UK, Mexico, and Australia, reported $500.3 million in revenue and a $4.9 million operating profit before tax for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024. The division's assets as of, and that's for like tons of different smaller entities. The division's assets as of September 30th, 2024 were valued at $245.4 million. Okay, so it says the sale comes after DGA faced an increasingly difficult retail environment, declining consumer demand, and the impact of new trade tariffs in the US. The board of IG Design Group believes the disposal is in the best interest of the group and its shareholders, allowing it to exit a loss-making segment and focus on more profitable markets in the UK, continental Europe, and Australia. So here are the terms of the deal. IG Design Group will receive 75% of any future proceeds from the sale or realization of DGA's assets, with the buyer entitled to the remaining 25%. However, there is no such guarantee that any such proceeds will be realized, and the group may ultimately only receive the initial $1 payment. The company's existing asset-based lending facility in the US will be terminated upon the completion of the transaction. They're trying to get some more financing. The disposal is anticipated to result in a significant non-cash write-down of the group's investment in DGA, affecting the financial results for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. The way the breakdown is, that's not like just the gross revenue. IG Design Group would receive the money would be the proceeds. They have not shared the terms, but there would be some deductions for expenses and costs of running all of these businesses. IG Design Group would not get 75% of all of the revenue. They would get 75% of proceeds. So that's different. That's after some of the costs and expenses. And I looked up what it could mean, and it doesn't necessarily mean just the profit, but they're going to agree on what they count as deductions and expenses. Stuart Gilliland, chair of IG Design Group, acknowledged the efforts of the DGA team and emphasized the company's commitment to strengthening its international operations. Well, I guess not if they're going to get rid of the Americas. I don't know. This move is seen as a strategic pivot to mitigate financial risks and concentrate on regions with stronger market performance. All right, and this is from a press release. Also, I love how at the bottom it says, this article was generated with the support of AI and reviewed by an editor. I'm going to be real. This is probably going to happen with a lot more journalism, or when you see blogs or news websites, there's probably going to be more and more AI generated content. They probably just put the press release into some sort of AI tool and it spit out an article, which is kind of nuts. But that's the future, right? I just like how they had that disclaimer. So we're going to see a lot more AI generated articles. So on the surface, yes, the parent company of Simplicity Creative Group, DG Americas, was sold to a company that is known for liquidating assets, and the company here, I'm going to pull this up, is Hilco Capital. So they have a history of doing this type of thing. So you can see their website here. They are a leading special situations investor, asset-based lender, and provider of outsourced retail services, specializing in combining fast access to capital with financial and operational expense to add value in a broad range of sectors. So to me, it kind of seems like IG Design Group just didn't want to deal with DG Americas anymore, so they are handing it off to Hilco to do all of that stuff. If they're going to try to restructure these companies, maybe try to find buyers for some of them, they could sell. There are a lot of possibilities for what Hilco Capital could do with all of these properties. So here is the IG Design Group website. So you can see what they do. They focus, their main sectors are celebration stuff and then create stuff. So in here's, they've got tons of different brands. You can see 11,000 customers, 1.3 billion products, 2,700 employees, 79 countries, 120 years in business. This company has a lot of fingers and a lot of different pots. And they basically just gotten rid of the Americas group, which is a significant part of their business. So I found a lot of publicly available information on the numbers. So the first question I've been seeing is, does this mean that all of the pattern companies are going to just disappear overnight? And as far as I can tell, I think the answer is no. So I want to just try to offer some momentary reassurance that these pattern companies are not going to just disappear. I would really be surprised. I've seen some freakouts, and I just want to encourage you to not freak out. These are all and they have some other brands too. So not just the patterns, but they also have So Direct, Perler, Wrights, Dimensions, Boy, CR Gibson, and Eureka. here is the press release, or like the information released by IG Design Group. And this is probably what that investing.com website used to create their article. So you can see this is directly from IG Design Group. Last year, they had total revenue of $500 million. And quite honestly, for as much as they own, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by that number. I would have thought it would be, more in the, closer to in the billions. Before tax profit of $4.9 million, which for a company that large, that seems to me like kind of small. Just from a normie perspective, that kind of seems small compared to what you see of numbers of other companies like, say, Apple or Google or something like that. Because this company, they own so much. Like if you take a look, and again, everything's linked down in the description box, but if you take a look at how much stuff they have a lot of brands. So I'm curious about what the breakdown is between each brand, what they generate. Like, I'm sure they probably have some that they might be taking a loss on, that might not be profitable. So I would be curious to know which brands in particular are profitable and which are not, which are breaking even. Yeah, they just have, like, they had anything from toys to like crafting stuff to gift wrap to stationery to the sewing patterns. So they have a lot of different stuff. All right, so yeah, they're kind of citing like a difficult business climate in the United States. But I'm going to get to this later, but the United States is actually 2/3 of all of the business. IG Design Group has now just sold 2/3 of their all of their business for $1, which is kind of crazy. After, this kind of hit the internet, Simplicity Creative Group has responded. So here is their Instagram. I'm going to pull up the message that was posted by Mimi G Style, and she is, I think, a vice president. She's some sort of vice president executive with Simplicity Creative Group. She acts as a spokesperson. So let's take a listen to what she had to say. I might not play the whole thing, but again, it's linked in the description box if you would like to check out the whole thing.
Hi guys, Mimi G here. I want to take a moment to check in and share something important with you. Yes, we've seen the comments, the posts, and the DMs, and we want you to know we hear you. I'm personally not involved in the inner workings on the business side, but let me be super clear on what I do know. It's business as usual at Simplicity Creative Group, and we are moving full steam ahead. Our incredible team of 80 in New York is hard at work drafting, designing, and developing the next round of sewing patterns that we know you're going to love. The energy behind the scenes is amazing, and everyone is laser focused on continuing to bring you the styles, the inspiration, and the support that have made this brand what it is today. In fact, last month was our biggest month of sales on simplicity.com, and that is thanks to you. Your support, your creativity, your passion for sewing, that's what fuels us.
Look, this is a corporate approved message. I get it. There's probably not much more she can say about the matter. And there probably is a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we're just not privy to. So you have to understand that you're probably not going to get anything more out of the folks at Simplicity Creative Group or any of the pattern brands, because again, I've worked for a large company before, and typically you're not allowed to talk to the media. There's only like the spokesperson who's allowed to. So this is what they're allowed to say, and you know what? I understand it and I get it. So they're basically saying they have a team of 80 in New York, and they're going about business as usual. So again, I don't want anyone to have like the sky is falling mentality right now, because there's really no immediate need for that type of panic, that level of panic. Things could change. This is a very fluid situation. They're not saying they've had layoffs. They're not saying they're going to be shutting down. They are going about the business, and they're still creating more products. Now, was the loss of Joanne as one of their major customers a real blow? I'm sure it was. I know you kind of have to wonder, like with all the crazy sales and the patterns, one of the things that's happened within the sewing community is that we got so used to these like crazy sales, like the $1.99 patterns, the 99-cent patterns. As a business model in 2025, like that may not work. So I know a lot of you are very disappointed at the pricing on simplicity.com, and the sales they're not as deep as they were in certain stores, but I think that's the reality that we're going to have to adapt to. So a lot of stuff has gotten more expensive, and I'm not at all surprised that like these paper sewing patterns can't be as cheap as they used to be. And also somebody asked her, yeah, what happened? Okay, yeah, a lot of people are like, what the heck is going on? Somebody did she did say in the comments that they are working on fall of 2025 patterns. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of people are asking about what's going on with the liquidator, but like this person's like, the sale of a liquidator means it will likely be closed or be sold. Again, nothing has happened specifically to Simplicity Creative Group at this time. And I can see why they're trying to be positive and not be like all doomsday. So I totally get it. So that is a message from Mimi G Style. Go follow her. And again, I don't know her personally, really. I think I DM'd her on like Instagram like once. She was pretty cool. And it's time for a quick commercial break. If you are looking for a new place to get fabric and sewing supplies, I encourage you to check out my own Etsy shop at sewingreport.etsy.com, where you can find a quality, highly curated selection of different types of fabrics, different types of notions. I've got everything from pins to marking pens to sewing labels and a lot of different fabric bundles. I also have some sew tights, which is a very popular item here. And I've got some apparel fabrics like knits and rayons. So check it out. That is one way you can help support the work I do and independent reporting on the sewing and crafts industry. And you can visit me at sewingreport.etsy.com. I pack and ship every order myself. I ship within the United States and I offer free shipping on orders of $35 or more. Back to this whole sewing pattern company situation. We're going to get more into the numbers now. I was really trying to find a lot of as much information as I could on the financials. The financials for Simplicity Creative Group specifically were not available. So it was all jumbled together into IG Design Group. So that's what I'm going to be looking at. And I also want to kind of go over what could possibly happen from the sale to Hilco Capital. And there are a lot of different possibilities. Hilco Capital probably isn't going to own DG Americas long term. Again, they could hypothetically sell certain sectors, like different brands, different offshoots. Like they could just sell Simplicity Creative Group that includes everything. They could sell the brands individually. So there's a lot they could do. They've got digital assets, they've got intellectual property. So there are a lot of assets from the sale of DG Americas. And Hilco Capital did not have to put up any money to do this. They just have to give IG Design Group 75% of all of the agreed upon proceeds. Now, they could try to restructure and revitalize some of these companies, including Simplicity Creative Group. And in fact, if what Mimi G said is true, that they've had like the best month ever on simplicity.com, that fares pretty well for looking attractive to potential buyers. If Hilco Capital is looking to find someone that wants to continue to operate the sewing pattern business, they could try to improve it and, make a profit because it's a lucrative business. The other thing we don't know is how well Simplicity Creative Group is doing financially. We don't know if the company is profitable or not, but they could be profitable. I want to give you some hope. They could let business run as usual for now and try to find a buyer. That seems kind of likely right now. They could integrate it. Like if they've got another company in their portfolio that might make sense, they could fold it into, another division. I think the worst case scenario is obviously that they severely downsize Simplicity Creative Group or close it. Again, that might not make a lot of sense if this particular company does make money or clearly there is a market for sewing patterns to some degree. And if they are continuing to make money, then why would Hilco Capital just close it down if the company actually makes money? But that's the question is, does the sewing pattern part of this business, does it make money? And that's really the big question that's up in the air. But I want to share this with you. So they did make a lot of money, IG Design Group, on DG Americas. IG Design Group makes gain on U.S. property deal. So this is Berwick Offray. I think that's like the ribbons and stuff. So they sold a distribution facility. They made a profit. This is just a couple months ago. They made almost $5 million on the deal after selling costs and taxes. So that's a lot of money. And here's a number I found interesting. The group's financial year ends on the 31st of March. That was a couple months ago. It had previously warned about challenging retail conditions, particularly at its U.S. business, where its fourth largest customer has gone into Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. That was Joann's. As a result, it has made a provision of around $15 million and expects overall sales to be down around 10% on last year's figure, with profits expected to be significantly impacted and below market expectations of around $32 million. But look at this. IG Design Group had sales of just over $800 million in 2024. The DG Americas business accounted for almost 2/3 of the sales. So $500 million of the $800 million in sales, IG Design Group got rid of basically 2/3 of the business, which is pretty interesting. It's not like DG Americas was like just some tiny offshoot. It was the bulk of its business. I found some of their financials for the design group. Let's take a look at this. I mainly looked at like 2024 and 2025. First, let's just take a look at this with kind of an overall picture of the financials here. This is the half year, like basically the first half of the year of 2024 compared to 2025. Revenue is down. Operating profit is down. Profit before tax is down. All right, let's see, operating profit. So the numbers are down from 2024 to 2025. All right, so and here's kind of their reasonings why. All right, well, actually, first, let's look at this other report. All right, but that's kind of the raw numbers you're looking at here. Let's look at, I want to take a look at 2024 because I saw some numbers in here that were kind of intriguing. So here is IG Design Group. All right, so revenue, $800 million. Net cash, $95 million. Top 25 customers make up 67% of group revenue. Here's some of the partners: Walmart, Tesco, Action, Costco, Amazon, Aldi, Joann, RIP, Target. So here is their, look at, the Americas are 2/3 of the business. All right, and here's revenue by product. So Create would be more like the crafting stuff, 31%. Celebrate stuff, which is like probably like the gift wrap and stuff, and maybe like the toys stuff for kids, 69%. So the crafting stuff is a smaller part of the business. Every day, 50 revenue by season. So they have a pretty good breakdown of their numbers here. And again, I encourage you to check this out on your own. I've linked to everything down below in the description box if you want to. If you're kind of a nerdy person and you just like to look into stuff. This is the chairman, Stuart Gilliland. All right, and this is the guy that was over DG Americas, Paul Bell, Chief Executive Officer. All right, so here are the numbers, and you can compare 2023 to 2024. So the crafting is 17% of the business, $136 million in 2024 and $151 million in 2023. But here's the thing, even though the revenue in 2024 was less than 2023, the profit was higher in 2024. So they must have had some, maybe they were able to cut some costs or make the companies more efficient. The actual profit is higher in 2024 compared to 2023. So they were able to increase profit despite a loss in overall revenue between these 2 years. Now, this is just for 2023 and 2024. We're going to get to 2025. Revenue in DG Americas declined 26% in the first half of the year and stabilized during the second half with a 1% decline. But they still made more profit in 2024, even with less overall money. All right, so that's 2024 compared to 2023. All right, let's get into 2025. Okay, so this is 2025 for like a half of the year, not the entire year. And you can kind of see some of the highlights here. So it says this is for IG Design Group. Revenue declined 11%, driven by previously communicated trends. A competitive U.S. retail environment with subdued consumer sentiment. Adjusted operating profits down 62% due to lower revenue coupled with material ongoing cost headwinds. Sales timing and initiatives to benefit H2 profitability. Net cash of $7.4 million is a significant year-on-year improvement, demonstrates strong cash management. Okay, so their strategy for 2025, new business gains more than offset by market challenges. Transformation across the group continues, especially in DG Americas. Closure of in-house China manufacturing underway. Broader rollout of our shrink-free Smart wrap innovation. I was trying to Google that because that sounded kind of interesting to me. Increased focus on licensing and branding and e-commerce. New bag making capabilities in Europe on stream. Developing supplier base in Mexico and India. So here's our fiscal year 2025 outlook. The economic backdrop remains fragile in certain markets, especially the U.S. Business simplification, improving efficiency, and other cost-saving initiatives drive profit recovery in the second half. Remain on track to grow profit year on year. So it does say they're expecting to grow the profit compared to 2024. Expect to deliver aspiration to return to pre-pandemic adjusted operating profit margins of at least 4.5%. Okay, so here is the category performance, and we're going to take a look at the craft section. All right, so they're down a little bit, not that much. So the first half of 2024, they were $70 million, and in 2025, it's $65 million, still 17%. Okay, so here's the DG Americas update. All major customers impacted. 30% growth in e-commerce channel reflects, I think it's good for Simplicity Creative Group to focus on selling these patterns on the website. They're selling paper patterns and they're also selling PDF patterns. It's going to be a big market, especially with the loss of Joann's. Yeah, what is the shrink wrap? That sounds pretty interesting. Okay, so that's DG Americas versus DG International. So yeah, the Americas had a bigger revenue decline than International. Okay, so profit after tax adjusted. Okay, so it's supposed to be $25 million in 2024, I believe, $11 million in 2025. Okay, group revenue was down 11%, driven by DG Americas, down 14%. Adjusted operating profit was down 62%. All right, here's how much cash. They did have some decline in 2025 compared to 2024. So even though we see these numbers, we really don't know how much of that is Simplicity Creative Group because I was not able to access any public information on the finances of the sewing pattern stuff. Let's take a look at DG Americas because, all right, so here is DG Americas. And this is, again, an offshoot of IG Design Group. They've got the creative play and toy division, the seasonal division, upscale and specialty sales, the craft division. Wow, that's kind of an interesting photo. And here are all their brands. So let's take a look at all of the stuff they have underneath. This is like, all right, so let's see. So there's 5 per row, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 33. So DG Americas has 33 branded products, brands of products underneath this division. So that's a lot. And I've never even heard of like Photo Fabric, Feltworks, all right, Simplicity Vintage. Oh, and here's more. So this is just the crafting section. All right, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So 33 in the crafts division. Let's see. 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. 17 in creative play. So this is kids stuff. 33 plus 17. Okay, so that's 17. We're going to keep adding this up. 17. All right, here's seasonal. 5, 10, 11. So there's 11 here. Upscale specialty. Wow, there's a lot. 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, so there's 20 brands in upscale specialty. Okay, so adding that all up, guys, they have 81 different brands under DG Americas. Have you ever heard of a lot of these brands? I have not. And here's why I am not panicking about this whole business deal in regards to the big 4 sewing pattern companies. 81 brands under DG Americas. 81. The revenues are down overall, but there could be certain brands that are helping to keep this somewhat profitable. We don't know which ones those are. We really don't. And the numbers are not publicly available to know which brands are the winners, which brands are doing well, performing well, and which ones are struggling. So without that information, I think it's really hard to make any sort of determination on the future of Simplicity Creative Group. So I'm not comfortable speculating on what's going to happen with the sewing patterns because I just don't think I certainly don't have enough information to really make an educated guess. But 81 brands, I would go so far as to say that I think the sewing pattern brands might be some of the more well-known, larger of all of these brands. Like, I've never heard of Sky's Go-Go gift bag. Like, what the hell is that? I don't know. So a lot of these seem like super, super niche. I've heard of Easy Quilting, but a lot of these like Photo Fabric, Renew Ribbon, like the ones I've heard of are the pattern companies, Offray, Wrights. I've heard of Wrights, of course. But most of these other ones, like, who the hell knows? These creative play brands, for all we know, some of the other brands could be the duds, and maybe Simplicity Creative Group is one of the better assets. I don't know. Thing is, you probably don't know either. I think it's hard to tell. Do I think things are like totally amazing and going awesome for the sewing and crafting industry? You know, I think there's definitely some contraction happening for sure, but I also think that we saw some artificially high and impossible to sustain numbers during the pandemic. I really do. And I don't think that could last. I think we saw like an unprecedented event that a lot of these businesses, I think, got over leveraged, or they thought this would last forever. And it didn't. We're coming back to like more normal, down to earth levels. And a lot of these businesses, I think, are unprepared. I've even seen a lot of small businesses that opened up during the pandemic that were like, oh my gosh, business is booming. And then when things got back to like normal, they're like, oh my gosh, my business is dying. But like the problem with that way of thinking is that they didn't really understand that those types of numbers were just artificially inflated and not going to be permanent. And it's not like we've seen this with other businesses. We saw this with Etsy. We've seen this with Joann's. And the other thing I do want to point out about Simplicity Creative Group that makes it a bit different from the Joann situation is that Joann had a massive amount of debt. I don't know about the debt situation of Simplicity Creative Group. They could be in a much better situation in terms of not being in the red and not having hundreds of millions of dollars owed to creditors. I think some of y'all are seeing this and being like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. We saw what was going on with Joann's. You know, it's over. And I'm not ready to say that. I'm really not, just because I don't think we have enough information to be able to really say for sure. And the other thing is, if for some reason, worst case scenario, Hilco Capital decides to shut down Simplicity Creative Group, it's probably not going to be overnight. It's not going to totally come out of nowhere. We'll probably get some heads up. So I wouldn't go out and like panic buy a bunch of sewing patterns. I wouldn't be freaking out at this point. I don't think that's going to be helpful to you. So I've got kind of a nuanced opinion on this, I suppose, because obviously this is not amazing, but I also am not sure I would say this is the end. Also, I want to show you the stock price for IG Design Group. And this sort of goes along with what I was thinking about look at their stock price. So their stock price is currently $88. They've gone through a lot of ups and downs. So look at we're at 1996, $52, $351, 2001, $191, 2002, $408, $62 in 2005. Huge drop throughout like the and this kind of goes along with like, you know, with recession, housing crash, all that stuff. Things really picked up. And look at, through the pandemic, crazy bonkers numbers. Yeah, highest ever was like January of 2020. Things were pretty high during the pandemic, and then drops like a rock 2022. And it seems like they haven't really recovered. But this is the same sort of trend line I've also seen with other company stock, including Etsy and Joann's. I'm definitely going to be doing more coverage on whatever happens with Simplicity Creative Group. But for now, I know the sexy headline is Big Four Sewing Patterns sold to Liquidator for $1. It's over. And you know, you might think that. And you know what? If you want to think that, I think that's you're entitled to your opinion. But look, we can only live in the present, and currently all of these sewing pattern brands are continuing to operate and function as a regular business. Could that change in the future? Of course. And, you know, 5 years down the line, we could be looking at something entirely different. I'll continue to monitor this and keep you updated on whatever is going on. But I do think if something were to happen to these brands that we know and we love and we've been using for a long time. I think it's going to happen on a longer timeline and not necessarily. Even with the Joann's bankruptcy to closure, it was over a year that this transpired. Chill for now, sit tight. There's not much any of us can do really. Besides, I guess, buying sewing patterns, I suppose if Hilco Cap sees that this is a very profitable business, I imagine they would probably be less motivated to close the doors. Yeah, if you want these brands to stick around, they definitely need support. My opinion, I think we're going to have to adapt to some changes within our corner of the world. I think the business climate has changed. Also, consumer habits and our lifestyles are not the same as they were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. We have to deal with the reality that fewer people are sewing now than they were in 1970, 1980. That's going to mean fewer consumer options if fewer people are purchasing these products and have a need for them. And I think with the sewing patterns, one thing about them is with all of the 99-cent sales and the $1.99 pattern sales, you'd go out and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy we've seen all the sewing pattern hauls. I'm guilty of it myself. In fact, I did a video a while back on my main channel, The Sewing Report, just encouraging people to stop buying sewing patterns that they don't need. Because I was doing that, and now I have a bunch of patterns that I'm probably never going to get to. Sewing a project is kind of time consuming, and it's not like most of us are going to be sewing one sewing pattern a day or anything like that. The life cycle of us getting through these sewing patterns is kind of a slower burn. And a lot of us have stocked up on sewing patterns, and at a certain point you don't need any more. The same thing happens with our fabric collections where you buy and buy and buy and buy, and then you're like, I really have way too much that I'll never use. And then you kind of step back. A lot of us have kind of, I think, stepped away a little bit from overconsumption. I know I have over the past year or so, and I think that's a good thing. But that also means that these businesses that we're used to and we've become accustomed to might not be able to stay the same if our own buying habits change. I think there's going to be some changes within the sewing and craft industry. There kind of has to be, especially with more and more people shopping online. Just fewer people who, unfortunately, know how to sew or enjoy sewing, enjoy quilting. And that's one thing with Joann's is it the chicken or the egg? Because I know a lot of us were frustrated because Joann's had all of the home deck stuff that didn't seem to make sense. But I can understand from a business perspective, if fewer people are buying the crafting supplies, the sewing supplies, and the fabric, what else? They have to find something for people to buy. I think these businesses are in a tough situation for sure. I don't know how it's all going to shake out. I will continue to keep you updated as much as I can here. That's what I do here on Sewing Report Live. It's certainly been a pretty busy month so far in June for news. That's for sure. But I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. I would really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for helping me get to 10,000 subscribers here on Sewing Report Live. I'm going to continue to do news and commentary here as it happens. I might also be working in some more, chatty videos on various topics that I feel like sounding off on. So if that's something you want to get in on, subscribe to Sewing Report Live. And I also do just regular sewing and different, just more straight up sewing and, different products. I do reviews, I do tutorials over on the main Sewing Report channel. I'm Jen with Sewing Report Live, and I'll see you again in the next one.